I'm really interested in asking a former candidate about my idea that I'm developing. I asked Hector Oseguera last week or 2 weeks ago, and now I have another candidate that I can ask about the People's Gauntlet. And basically, this is a vetting framework that I'm developing, and I'm going to give you the general idea. It's still in development right now. Overall, I'm hoping to get my fellow progressive pundit community. So Humanist Report, I would love for Mike, David Dole. I already got my first endorsement was Nico House. He says he's interested in the idea. HLM, my guys Kit over in Chicago. I want to get them on board. And basically, if I could get a group of independent pundits to help me develop the idea and endorse it, what that would mean, if you're a candidate trying to get on their show, trying to get exposure, the first thing they're going to ask you is, did you do the People's Gauntlet? I'll give you the idea for the People's Gauntlet, and there's going to be different legs of the People's Gauntlet. Anybody who wants to know the details can watch the last Progressive War Room. It's 3 legs. The first leg is Economy and Well-Being Gauntlet. Cancellation of student debt, tax and reform, fair trade, expanding Social Security, etc. A Justice Gauntlet. This is where you talk about the third Reconstruction. You talk about ending gun violence, LGBTQ equality topics, justice reform, housing as a human right, reproductive rights, police reform. Then we have the Democracy Gauntlet. Then you have the Policy Gauntlet. Let's say 1 week you can do one leg, let that breathe. Maybe 2 weeks later you do the next leg. But basically, there's going to be legs. It will take about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how passionate you feel as a candidate about each topic within that. So social justice, how do you address police reform, for example, etc. And then there's Healthcare Gauntlet. How do you address the healthcare system? Are you for Medicare for all? What do you feel about that? Maybe you're for an NHS system. That's the idea for the People's Gauntlet. I would want you to have a website and have a YouTube channel so that you can put it up on there. When you go to a Jimmy Dore or anyone who does promotion for candidates, when they ask you, you can point them to that specific video or a leg, and you don't have to do 100%. Maybe it takes some time over the duration of your candidacy, but definitely it'll be best to take care of it up front so that people can start. That would motivate me as a volunteer. Let me look at the person's policy. In the past we used to go to the policy page on the website, but if I can hear it come out of the words of the candidate's mouth, somebody like a Colin Alderhead who dropped Medicare for all. He was on TYT. He was interviewed by Emma Vigeland, and he said flowery words towards Medicare for all. But in the end, as soon as he got elected, there's an article where it talked about the candidates who ran on Medicare for all, but as soon as they got elected, there was about like 5 or 6 that they just dropped it.
Well, that's something that we're struggling with ourselves when we go through the vetting process. And it comes right back down to that word progressive. And like I said, there's going to be things that we really want people to talk about, as the Green New Deal and Medicare for all. So one of the things that we have established as part of our Future Generations platform is that any time that we are going to endorse somebody, first of all, we do all of our research. We let them in and out. We go through all their social media. We look for videos of anything they may have said. One of the things that I also look for in particular is I want to see what that person was doing before they chose to run. I want to see how they were helping their communities, elevate their communities before they chose to run, because those are things that you don't get paid for.
Yeah.
So what were you doing before there was an idea of a paycheck at the end of this? Wow. So that's one of the things that we look for. The other thing is I want a statement back. So why is a Future Generations endorsement that important to you? And we ask for that. In that, I guess it's like a confirmation of our endorsement before we actually endorse. If we don't receive that, then we don't endorse. And I'll actually let you know that we haven't received that from about 3 candidates. So we just moved on and didn't endorse because it was just very hard for them to put on paper what we actually wanted them to say. So we have a very specific platform of things that we support. And if you can't come out and blatantly say, without any gimmicks, that you support these issues, then we're not going to get behind you. And the reason we do that is because to have any accountability in the future, that is what we need. We need it on paper. We need you to say it. We need you to do it on your social media so that we can pull those receipts later and say, what happened? We gave you all our support. We got all of our youth behind you. We put all of our energy and trust behind you, and you technically betrayed us. So how do we get those people back on board, or how do we prevent that from happening again? Is by doing something like that. It's getting those affirmations from them by saying verbally and writing them out, as it's almost like a social contract that we're entering before we support them. Because we've seen that, like you just mentioned with Aldridge, we have that with many other candidates who launched progressive campaigns, and then the second that they won or lost, they were kissing the establishment ring. And that's something that I just absolutely probably detest the most out of what's happening right now in the political movement.
Totally. So when I talked to Hector about it, he liked the idea a lot. One thing that he said was candidates want to flush out their policies and make sure it's on point before bringing it out, because, if they bring it out the wrong way, they can get a lot of scrutiny. I totally understand that point. My particular vision for the People's Gauntlet is for you to just speak freely. It doesn't have to be policy, which is, very technical, written down, ready to become a bill. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, hey, if I saw you walking down the street and you said to me, oh, I'm running for this office, and I say, hey, okay, so what do you think about Medicare for all? Boom. That's what I'm looking for in that video. And I want you to convince me that you are convinced yourself that Medicare for all is the idea for you that you're going to champion if you have the opportunity to represent me in Congress. And that's how it is for every single one of those topics. So ranked choice voting is going to be on there as well. There's various other things that's going to be on the People's Gauntlet. And honestly, it can also do two things. If you don't know about certain topics, hopefully you'll say, okay, let me read up on it. The Palestine and Israel conflict is another thing that's going to be on there. We want to know, nobody is anti-Israel. We also agree that the Palestinians are put in a really bad place in open air prisons over there in the Gaza Strip, etc. So we want to know how you feel about it. And if you don't know, that's fine. Read up on it. In my opinion, you should never get all the way to Congress without knowing certain things or having a stance on certain issues. And that's what the People's Gauntlet is about. And I think of it as like an open source vetting system. Everyone has their own vetting system. Justice Democrat, Futures Generation, Working Family Party, everyone is going to have the Sunrise Movement. Everyone has their own vetting system. This is the People's Gauntlet because it's the people's vetting system. We want to see you talk about the issues.
I think it's a great idea, and if you could launch it, I will. And if there's anything I can do to help you launch it, just let me know. Because I do. I think that there is, like you said, there is a different vetting process for every single organization that comes out as progressive or comes out as a populist organization. But there are, and I actually know a few candidates who have gotten as far as to Congress without even knowing exactly what is happening with Israel and Palestine.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes I have to educate them on geopolitics that are happening in South America or in Europe.
Wow.
And how all of those things play together to create the political environment that we're here at home. One of those being oil right now, talking about green energy. What is it going to take to transition from oil to green energy in states that rely on that without knowing and understanding the geopolitics that are behind all that actually give the U.S. Market like almost zero power in how they participate in the oil industry. So all of those things, I think they should all be something that the people should, number one, be aware of, and number two, start questioning their candidates. Like, do you know about that? How is it going to affect me? And what are you going to do about it?
Yes.
And actually, at the same time, it's going to educate the public, because we're going to be as the interviewer.
Exactly. So I would love to know what you think about in the comments below, the People's Gauntlet. And I'm definitely going to take Roza up on that offer.